So before I give this speech, I'm going to give you a few items of vocabulary, a few expressions as well, some names. So this topic, this speech is going to be on hedging. So a few of these names are actuarial science. So this is the science of risk. You have investment portfolio. In French, it's portefeuille d'investissement. It's pretty simple. I'm going to briefly mention credit default swaps, CDSs. I'm going to mention Armageddon, Ragnarok. I'll speak a little bit about the Byzantine Empire. I'm going to mention William Pitt the Elder and Palmerston. I'm going to mention Nassim Taleb. He's a Lebanese, I think he's a Lebanese author who's written a book called The Black Swan. And I'm also going to mention Queen Boudica, Vercingetorix, Bonnie Prince Charlie. So Bonnie Prince Charlie, John Law, Charles Ponzi, The Glorious Revolution, the Battle of Thermopylae. As you know, I quite like history. Also a syndrome, or what is considered to be a syndrome, called fear of missing out, FOMO. I'm going to mention hubris and kairos, the god of opportunity. And there are a few expressions like eating the cake and having it, biting off more than you can chew, put all your eggs in the same basket, sitting on the fence, and that should be it. Oh yeah, on top of that, I'm going to mention the volcano in Iceland, Eyjafjallajökull, I would assume. I'm not sure about the pronunciation. So let's start. Let's start the speech. Ladies and gentlemen, this speech tonight is about hedging your bets. It will mainly revolve around the ideas of decision-making, investment, commitment to a plan, and comparing a range of options. As you surely know, hedging your bets means covering for your losses, whether in terms of money or any other resources. In some contexts, it can mean avoiding commitment and leaving a means of retreat open. It essentially means not to put all your eggs in the same basket. I shall delve into this idea, dealing with uncertainty through hedging, hedging your assets. First, by talking about the economic and financial world, and secondly, by applying these concepts to international relations, using historic insight. Quite often, when you take a decision, that means that you have to take risks. And this is why, instead of relying on plan A only, you also devise a plan B, a plan C, up to Z, if you will. So it's up to your imagination and up to the time that you have at your disposal. Here, we're not talking about quick, instantaneous endeavors, such as interpreting, as you are doing now, or martial arts, in which intuition, immediate reaction, a cool nerve are needed, where you need to commit firmly to one option only. Even though in a few cases you may have to leave another option open, it cannot distract you from your current course of action. In these situations, like right now, if you are hesitating too much, pondering too long on various alternatives, you simply fail, because you let your audience wait in desperation for the speaker's message to be conveyed. Or, in the case of martial arts, you give a time window long enough for your opponent to, for example, kick you in the face. No, here we are talking about planned decisions in terms of hedging, especially when the outcome is uncertain and you are left in a state of doubt, meaning that you are unable to commit fully to one course of action. So I've mentioned hedging in its literal meaning in economics and finance. As a business owner, let's assume you're all business owners, you may be worried about currency fluctuations here or abroad, and you may wish to cover for your losses. If you're doing business in one country, let's say Belgium, and you use a given currency, which is the euro, and you want to do business as well in another country, in another economic area, where another currency is used, let's say Peru with sols or soles, you might be afraid that with the changing exchange rate, you may lose purchasing power. Let's imagine the euro loses value against the Peruvian sol. In that case, you lose purchasing power. And what you would do then is to buy in advance the same amount of the opposite currency that is at stake. So let's say you have placed 5,000 euros in your business in Peru, and you don't want to lose them by the end of a certain period because you think that during this span of time the euro is going to lose its value. You immediately buy the same amount in Peruvian sol. So that means that at the end it cancels out. The value you have lost in the euro is cancelled out by the amount you already had in sols. And you can apply the same principle for many other things and in quite similar ways as well in economics. So as we know, there are all sorts of risks facing your businesses abroad, not only currency devaluation. There could be also financial uncertainty. We could think of Southeast Asian countries in the 1990s. We could think about structural economic imbalances. For example, countries like Venezuela or Saudi Arabia that are over-reliant on oil and gas. Another threat could be political upheaval. There have been riots in Thailand a couple of years ago, I believe. You could think of civil war in South Sudan, political instability in Brazil. That deters investors and makes business more difficult. Even natural disasters like the eruption of volcano Eyjafjallajökull, I assume I'm pronouncing it right, which is probably not the case, that caused severe disruption to airline companies and shipping. You could think of the extended wildfires that took place in Russia in the summer of the same year in 2010. The number of factors influencing the macroeconomic context at a given point in time is incredibly high. I shall not dwell in the technicalities of the field of actuarial science, which is the field of science aimed to measure and manage risk and uncertainty. But you will clearly understand that actuarial science is highly relevant in this regard, and it is therefore used largely by insurance companies to assess risk and so on. Obviously, the same idea is very much used in banking, as it is more secure to balance your investment portfolio with different kinds of assets and investments. Winning on all fronts can only be a very best case scenario. Having all your assets placed in one firm or one sector of the economy may be similar here to going all in, like in poker, and is therefore very risky. Whereas the third alternative, diversifying your investment, this tends to reduce risk, even though in some cases their profitability may at times go in divergent directions. So just to give you an example of this, let's assume that there is competition between some economies. So if shale gas is being extended in the United States and you're investing in both shale gas in the US and in gas from Qatar, if the shale gas investment in the US negatively impacts Qatari gas, your portfolios might conflict, if you will. So one might go up, the other might fall. But all in all, you're pretty much secure in your investment because you're not relying on one type of investment only. And this is also why central banks keep reserves in an array of currencies. It could be euros, dollars, yens, and so on, as well as assets such as gold ingots. These are not only useful in terms of liquidity to perform international exchanges, but also to maintain resilience in case of systemic shocks. Let me just add a comment about some financial products known as derivatives. Some of them are the CDSs, credit default swaps, and CDOs. These products were invented in the early 90s, and they basically act as an insurance in case of a default by a debtor. And this is greatly dangerous because there is a risk of chain reactions among various financial institutions, banks, insurance companies, and they are making themselves very dependent on each other, and sometimes the tide is too high. We can mention Goldman Sachs, the large investment bank that has been accused by some of betting on some entities' defaults at the same time as on the opposite outcome. So in some cases, diversifying investment in such a way is a bit like if you were playing heads or tails and you said, if it's heads, I win, if it's tail, I don't lose. In the face of recent uncertainty on the global scale, it has been reported that very wealthy people are, by the way, buying bunkers, secure property against the prospect of a large disaster. There has been a surge of billionaires buying nuclear shelters, just in case the whole global economy collapses. The Third World War rages across the seven seas, it's Armageddon, it's Ragnarok, you name it. Let's now, shall I make a pause maybe before I move on? It's 12 minutes? Okay.